Hi, my name is Martin Stevenson and I am convener of the International Committee. I'm a semi-retired consultant specialising in superannuation.
Hi, I'm David Bell. I'm the Chief Executive of the Actuaries Institute, and it's my pleasure today to be interviewing Martin, who's the convener of the International Committee. So Martin, straight up, it's been a really busy year for the International Committee. What have been the big issues that you've grappled with this year?
Well, David, probably the biggest issue has been the restructure of our committee. Other major highlights have been 2 meetings of the International Actuarial Association. There's been major breakthroughs in the education syllabus. There's been developments in the frontiers of actuarial science in data analytics and banking. There was a long-awaited accounting standard that affects actuaries that came through in 2017. There was a lot of work on the next International Congress, which is going to be held next year but has relevance for us in Australia. And finally, we appointed an Asian liaison manager.
That's a lot of work, Martin, but what I'd like to do is start at the beginning and let's talk about the restructuring of the committee itself. Tell me about that and what the purpose of it was.
Yeah, this was initiated by Council. Council took the view that international developments have become a lot more important for the Institute. So what they wanted was that our committee to be expanded, to have a wider remit, and in particular to focus more on our members overseas. We have 22% of our members overseas, 13% are in Asia. So we really restructured the committee and advertised for members who would like to join.
So, I imagine there was a lot of interest in the work of the committee. And how did members respond to the request for new membership and the reconstruction?
Yeah. The response was terrific. We had more members applying than positions were vacant. And what really appealed to me is the diversity of the members who applied. Just so happens the committee at the moment is dominated rather by senior Australian males, a bit like you and me, David. And the membership we got, there were younger people, females, non-Australians. It's a really good, diverse mix. The other pleasing feature is the passion that people showed in their responses. They really cared about the Institute, the profession, and helping it internationally.
Thanks, Martin, for that. I'd like to switch topics now and talk about the meetings I attended of the International Actuarial Association. The first was in Budapest and the second was in Chicago. There's a lot of rich material discussed there, a lot of important topics. The one I'd like to start off with is pre-qualification education. Can you update us on that, please? In
Chicago, we achieved a milestone that a new syllabus, a new international syllabus was finally approved. Essentially, this syllabus brings actuaries into the 21st century. The new syllabus is far more relevant to the work that actuaries are now actually doing. And the Australian Institute is well advanced in incorporating that new syllabus into our own education. The other advantage, or the great thing at these international association conferences is we can hear about education developments from other countries so that we can sort of pick and choose the best that they're doing and incorporate them into our own pre-qualification education processes.
Yeah, so I think you and I both agree it was a very interesting topic to discuss and very relevant to the fact that we're actually doing a review of our own education system here in Australia.
Yeah, that's right. And the beauty of it, from my point of view, is that the two dovetail so well. It's not like we really have to change our system so much. What the International Association doing is very consistent with us, which I've got to say is partly because some of our people, Bazena Hinton would be one of them, has had a great input into the international syllabus.
Now I'd like to talk about the importance of the new accounting standards for the profession. Clearly it's critically important for us. What's the role of the International Actuarial Association when it comes to determining these standards?
Yeah, thanks, David. You should be referring to something with a catchy title of IFRS 17. Again, that's been about 15 years literally in the making, finally come through. And it does govern the way that actuaries will work with accountants for all kinds of insurance companies. And the International Association will be developing international standards of actuarial practice to help guide actuaries. It will also be issuing a whole raft of international actuarial notes for the same reason, to guide actuaries. We in Australia have a task force for the same subject, and again, the two are working hand in hand, each helping each other.
I'd now like to talk about continuing professional development, or CPD. Martin, many students think that once they've finished their professional education, that's the end of it. In fact, it's the beginning, and there's a lot of CPD involved. What's the role of the IAA in continuing professional development?
Yeah, there's a quite incredibly large overlap. For example, in the Chicago meeting that was recently held, there were seminars on such issues as mortality, morbidity, pensions and housing, also on banking. So that was just at the seminar there, but then there's the continuing effort of International Actuarial Association. There's committees on health, on pensions, on general insurance, life insurance. There's working groups which deal with such matters as mortality, population issues, data analytics and banking, and then there are the sections that members can join. And what's worth looking at on CPD is the website that the International Actuarial Association has. In particular, the Mortality Working Group has an information base, and on that information base are up-to-date articles by really the world's top experts in respect of mortality.
It's terrific to have access to that information. My ears did prick up when you talked about banking. Banking and data analytics, of course, are two things that our council is really keenly interested in. Can you talk about the interaction between our organisation and the IAA on those two important topics? Let's start off with data analytics.
In respect of data analytics, the International Actuarial Association does have a working group, and what it mainly does is gather knowledge of what actuaries are doing about this emerging field around the world and promotes awareness amongst other actuaries. Look, to be honest, we in Australia do a lot of work there, and we probably contribute more to that working group than we received, but that's fine. But what is very interesting is that a number of the local associations, the other associations like the Americans or the British, they've set up their own data analytics course, and that raises the possibility that for us in Australia, rather than trying to do it all again, which is very difficult as you know, what we can do is piggyback off those courses. And there's a possibility it could develop further. Maybe local associations will continue just to develop their own courses, but maybe we could put an international overlap and accredit it, or even have an international body doing the examination. So those things are on the table.
So data analytics is a very dynamic area, clearly. I think it's fair to say that we're in the top tier when it comes to thinking about data analytics.
Absolutely.
That's terrific.
That's true.
Along with the British, the Americans, the French and others. So it's a good place to be. Now, in terms of banking, banking is also very important to our council, and a large number of our members are involved in the banking profession. What about your thoughts on how the International Actuarial Association works with us on banking issues?
Again, working group's been set up, and again we contribute probably more because we are further advanced than most countries. However, there is one country which is further advanced, and that's South Africa. In South Africa there's a lot of actuaries involved with banking, and we've worked with the South African Association to help us get our banking course started, because they've been running a course for several years. So that's a tremendous help for our profession. One of the interesting things that emerged at the conference was the South African banking industry welcomed the involvement of actuaries because of our code of conduct and our professionalism. And it occurred to me that with the recent publicity of banks in Australia not being the best, this could be an opportunity for our profession here.
So every 4 years, there's an International Congress of Actuaries held. The next one's in Berlin, Martin, as you well know, and in 2022, we're privileged to host it in Sydney, which is going to be a terrific opportunity for us. What are the things that you've picked up in your various meetings this year about the risks that we face, and more importantly, the opportunities that we face?
Yes, the Americans who held their conference in 2014, and the Germans, who, as you said, are holding it next year, they've been incredibly generous with their knowledge and sharing their experience. Look, not surprisingly, the main lesson is start early. Interestingly, in Berlin, it looks like being a great success. They've had an overwhelming response to the number of papers that people want to present.
I absolutely agree that early preparation is the key, and I'm pretty confident we're on track here in Australia, which is great. And I absolutely agree with you. I think Berlin is going to be terrific. So 2022 is looking great for us.
Right.
So it's been a really busy year for the International Committee, Martin. What are some of the big issues that you're facing next year?
Well, one of the things we're going to have to do is review our mutual recognition agreements. These agreements allow an Australian actuary, say, who wants to work in America, to go over there and have his or her qualification accepted after a period of eligibility. And it's been a while since we've reviewed all those agreements. There's another couple of meetings of the International Actuarial Association, and as we've discussed, the Berlin conference itself will be held, and we should have a good representation there to see what works and what doesn't work as far as congresses are concerned. But the biggest challenge for me actually is going to bed down the new committee with its new structure, and in particular to put the focus back on Asia. Services to member is going to be top of the agenda, as well as working with local associations in Asia. So looking forward to 2018.
Yeah, and that's terrific because clearly we've achieved a lot in 2017 and we've got a great base for 2018. It's really important that our members engage with all of our committees, particularly the International Committee. What are your thoughts on how members can engage and learn from the great work that your committee does, Martin?
Yeah, there's a series of involvements. I think very simply members should just look at the bulletin because the international activities are promoted in the bulletin, so they can get a good idea of what is happening. A further step is to join the sections of the International Actuarial Association. They're open to members, so for example someone interested in pension work can join the pension and benefits section. If they want to take it further and get deeply involved with the committees or working groups, I suggest that they contact the Institute itself, and similarly if they want to help us in promoting the profession in Asia, again I think contact the Institute's the best idea.
And I absolutely second those sentiments. It's really important for members to get involved, and I always encourage volunteers. And look, and just finally, Martin, have you got any final thoughts you'd like to share with us on the work of the International Committee this year or in the future?
Well, what I'd like to do finally is express my thanks to the President of the Institute and Council and HQ, led by yourself, David. We've had terrific support during the year. I'd like to thank the members of the committee who've been hard-working, and I'd like to give a word of welcome to our new members who'll be facing the challenges ahead.
So thank you, Martin. Well done to you in particular. I know you've worked really hard on behalf of the Institute, and well done to your committee. Thank you very much.